The cold winter rain has a distinct way of finding every single seam in your cycling kit. The road beneath you becomes slick, unforgiving. I took a sharp corner once too fast, a few years ago, on a morning very much like this one. The bike slid out from under me instantly. The impact with the asphalt was sharp, bruising, and entirely unrefined. My immediate instinct was embarrassment, then a quiet frustration. But as I sat there in the grit, wiping the grime from my eyes, a sobering realization set in. I had grown soft. I had forgotten that the road demands absolute respect, and that staying upright is a privilege earned only through the discipline of the fall. In our contemporary lives, we do everything within our power to shield ourselves and our children and our family from that exact type of friction. This crisis is acutely visible within our urban communities. We have become entirely obsessed with safety, managing human lives through a known, highly predictable template. We look at our youth and we no longer see souls carrying a divine deposit to be carefully awakened. Instead, we see economic assets. We see units of production designed merely to service the bureaucratic needs of a marketplace. We anxiously usher them along a highly sanitized, hyper-regulated assembly line of modern achievement. High secondary school scores, prestigious university degrees, corporate entry-level positions, middle management security, and we call all this success. In reality, it is a profound transactional pedagogical trap. When a young person demonstrates a unique, irregular capability that does not conform or align with the immediate core requirements of the corporate market, we do not nurture it. We shave it off and with those magnificent irregular edges to ensure they fit neatly into the pre-cut slots of the social machinery. The consequences of this systemic failure are now unfolding in front of our eyes. We are not producing a generation of young adults who possess flawless academic credentials, but we are completely hollowing out the inside of the human soul. They can navigate a corporate spreadsheet or a university examination with extreme efficiency, yet they possess no internal anchor. When the severe ideological, moral, and psychological storms of the modern era hits them, they do not bend, they fracture, because they have only been trained to conform to an external mold. They lack the spiritual gravity required to stand firm when the mold itself begins to warp. There is a profound, unsettling irony in this. We applaud raw grit when we see it on a global stage, yet we systematically eliminate every opportunity for our own children to develop that very same resilience. Consider the story of Zhang, a grease-stained village dropout who disrupted the multi-decade monopoly of global legacy motorcycle giants. He did not build his international leaderboard success from a climate-controlled VIP suite. He spent 20 years in the raw dust and grease of the workshop, mastering the concrete reality of the machine. When his company achieved historical victories, he stood trackside in the pouring rain, holding umbrellas for his riders and wrenching on engine blocks alongside his mechanics. And when corporate boardrooms attempted to pivot his creation into a safe, sanitized operation focused purely on quarterly commercial growth, he walked away from everything. He chose to risk it all to start anew, driven by an uncompromised obsession with raw craftsmanship. His philosophy was simple: skill comes from falling. This is the ultimate critique of our modern educational architecture. It is also the precise point where we must return to the foundational truth of the revelation. In the Islamic worldview, a child is not an empty vessel to be filled with marketable data, nor a resource to be mined for the state. The child is a bearer of Fitrah, that inherent, untainted, primordial human nature that is naturally inclined toward virtue, truth, and the recognition of the Creator. The task of the educator is not to manufacture a character from scratch. The true task of education is protective and cultivational. We must act as master gardeners. A gardener does not look at a grape seed and attempt to force it to become an olive tree simply because the market currently values olives more than grapes. That would be a complete betrayal of the seed's essence. The master gardener nurtures the grape seed so that it may reach its ultimate, magnificent, unique realization. This internal potential is explicitly tied to a heavy metaphysical burden, and it's called the Amanah, the sacred trust of moral agency and stewardship upon this earth. True education is a rigorous process of training an individual to execute that stewardship. When we evaluate our children's progress, our primary question cannot remain, what position will you secure in the market? The question must become, what unique capabilities has the Creator deposited within your Fitrah? And how are you preparing to answer for how you deployed that trust on the day of account? To translate these deep theological principles into practical reality, we must actively dismantle the culture of short sighted careerism that paralyzes our homes. We must replace it with a long term vision of maturity, character, and responsibility. This is why we established the Murabbi formation program at the Sayyidina Omar Institute. We need to revive the classical Islamic institution of the Murabbi, an adult who does not merely transmit technical data for a fee, but one who systematically cultivates the soul of the student, transmitting a dignified way of being. A mentor who possesses a moral gravity that cannot be purchased with an institutional title. An elder who is present in the messy, unpolished realities of our youth lives, walking alongside them through their doubts, their early errors, and their clumsy attempts at building a life of virtue. So, to reclaim these educational principles requires an immense amount of collective courage. A known mold provides a guaranteed predictable, albeit mediocre product. Nurturing a unique soul is a messy, unpredictable, and often frightening endeavor. It requires parents to withstand the intense social pressure of their peers. It means refusing to measure the sacred worth of your child, your son, or your daughter by their university admission letter or their starting corporate salary. It means having the fortitude to support an unconventional path of craftsmanship, independent enterprise, or even deep scholarship, provided that path is pursued with absolute excellence, integrity, and profound commitment to the principles of Amanah. The time is now. It has come to stop adjusting the parameters of a broken transactional template. We must have the courage to smash the mold entirely. Let us return to our homes, our community spaces, and our schools, and begin the rigorous, patient, and magnificent work of shaping souls that are fit to bear the trust of the Creator. The road is long and winding. The wind may be against us, but we keep paddling. We keep the faith.